to this episode of the Forgotten Fields Project. I'm Robin Reed alongside Tara Williamson. Boy, we have got a lot to share with you this time around, so let's get started. Alrighty, Tara, do you know what happened yesterday? Did you notice what happened outside?
It was a soggy mess.
It was cold, it was wet, it was yuck, and it was great. About an inch of rain fell on our fields. How about yours?
About a little less than an inch.
Yeah, it seemed about right. Naturally, the reporting right away that I watched that night was that we're still in a drought, of course, because one rain does not a drought break. But nonetheless, it was welcome, and that was kind of fun. But other things happened just ahead of that rain. Happened to be working outside with some folks in the fields the day before, and if you looked up in the sky, it was the most amazing cirrus clouds, and they were wispy, and jet airplanes were flying by, and there were wonderful jet trails coming out. And as you know, that means something's changing with the atmosphere. What is it?
I would think that it would be a storm's coming, a system's brewing.
At least something's changing.
Yes.
So if you're in weather, you start with change, and then you ask what would the change be. And you're right, increasing moisture in the air.
Well, is the type of cloud indicate what's coming, though? It was a cirrus cloud, so therefore...
Oh, now you're bringing up a whole different subject. Shall we talk about what folklore says is going to happen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in a cirrus cloud, as moisture is changing up at 30,000 feet, meaning it's getting wetter and you can see the ice crystals, it depends on whether it's day or night. Let's take the most exciting one first, night. If it's 17 degrees at your farm, and you look out and there's a ring around the moon, a cirrus ring around the moon at 10 o'clock at night. What's next?
A storm's coming. Snow's coming.
Snow, because it's 17 at your place, right?
It's 17. Okay.
Right.
17.
Okay. So, and then the folklore part is the best. You look up and you count the number of stars inside the ring, because generally you can see right through. It's just cirrus clouds. And that's how many inches of snow you're going to get.
Really?
No, if you fall for that, you're in real trouble, but that's the folklore.
Huh. But it wouldn't be folklore unless there was enough.
Well, for somebody, it'll work out. I mean, if you ask enough people, it'll work out for somebody.
Well, with the first snow of this year, we're going to take a little survey and we're going to see.
Yes, we are. If this happens during the day, it's just an aura. It's something that you look up and you go, oh, that's beautiful. You see sort of a rainbow around the sun up there and the cirrus clouds, and it's really super photographic. So whip out your phone and take a picture.
Well, I'm thinking maybe I should get LASIK, because I don't think I've ever seen this in my life.
Well, I'll show you next time it happens. But that reminded me of Cirrus and Nimbus. How are your guys doing?
Oh, they are good. They're so playful with the cooler weather, too. They just run. They know their names now individually, which is adorable. So they have a goat house and giving them lots of treats, but they are something else.
Well, I heard a story, and you'll have to tell me if it's true, but there's another member of your farm family that kind of acted up a little bit over the last few days, I'm told.
Okay. What's it, Tom?
Louis.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Tom. What did Louis do?
Louis always all over the place. He just came back over to the farm about 2 months ago or so. Okay. For breeding time again. So he's been a busy little bee. So
to speak.
Yes. And he is just the biggest bundle of floof you've ever seen. I really need to post a picture of how much actual wool material is on this boy.
Outstanding.
But he's been having a blast. Very, very wild. He's normally a very calm boy, but he does have some jumpy tendencies sometimes. But he does know his name, so he'll come running and bounding towards you. And last year, actually, thinking of funny stories with him, Tom and I have some cameras set up for the farm stand, of course. And one is aimed towards the driveway. And I was out there with Louie, and I was handing him treats because, I'm a treat person. I love my babies. And they were out there, and I didn't have enough treats for Louie after he'd already got his first 2 dispersals.
Uh-oh.
So I had walked away to get a picture of something, and then, bam, I flew like 10 feet. I mean, skid, and I had just washed those pants, too. The thud was so loud, I got up, and then I told Tom later, and he was like, well, let me check that out on the video. He watched that video like 20 times over, and I shot about 10 feet. It was amazing.
Those are the things that make husbands happy, when they can see stuff like that, right? Okay.
But which story specifically with Louie?
What's his problem? Did he tear stuff up left and right?
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, he was a bad boy, wasn't he?
So, okay, we can talk about, we'll go back into this now then. About 2 nights ago, with all this rain about to happen.
Right.
And it hadn't rained, of course, forever.
Right.
And we just had our chicken feeder. We have this amazing 2-ton feeder because we used to have these little troughs that Tom and I built, and we would take buckets of feed, a 5-gallon bucket every day, and go out and disperse evenly the chicken feed across because they still need supplements, of course, and calcium for their shells, regardless of how much grass and insects they eat. And now we decided we're going to get this 2-ton feeder, make our job amazing, work smarter, not harder. So we have a little boom attached to a little auger, and we fill it all the way up, and the little feeder stays out there for a good couple weeks until we have to feed it back up again. But with our new little grain bin that we have, we just filled it up, and we didn't know the sheep were right there a few days ago, and there's a little trap door right on it.
Yeah.
And of course there's sheep. They don't know what they're doing half the time, 99% of the time.
Okay.
They busted this trap door open. So when our guy came to fill up the chicken feeder, about 500 pounds of feed escaped out of the bottom of it. And it was about to rain that night, and he calls us and he said, "I'm so sorry." We said, "It's okay." We went out there together, very romantic, in front of the tractor headlights. We were actually, I guess I was caught in a tractor beam, which is my first time ever.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'd only seen it in movies.
A Star Trek reference out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was very cool. I wanted to believe. So we were there with 5-gallon buckets and a shovel and had to fill up this by hand before it got wet. And it was just, so Tom went and we drilled that thing shut. So it is permanently sealed now. But sheep, they'll get into whatever they want to get into. It's always something on the farm, though. Always something, an adventure.
Louie. You got to go. Here's the thing now. I would like to, well, first of all, so you were out when it was cold and approaching wet. And so a slight bit of a nasal cough, chill, cough, those kinds of things happen during this time of season. So I want to get you to a more comfortable place now. I want to take you to the fireside, have you sit down in the chair. And since we are talking about things that are old as dirt, I think you could probably set the stage for what we're going to chat about for the rest of this podcast. So take it away on a warm fireside chat.
All right, we'll sit down and snuggle up, and we're going to be like we're listening to Waiting for Annie Oakley, filling out our Drink More Ovaltine, little codes on the back. So get ready. Memories. A vast trove of knowledge, a winding labyrinth of values, histories, stories, lessons. Someone else's memory, their history, may be theirs directly, but is it also ours indirectly? For are we not products of our environment? Like roots venturing into new territory with every yearning reach of growth, a new soil layered upon the defined solid strata underneath. We may choose a new path or start anew, but we must always remember the foundations set before and underneath us, for those are the shoulders we stand on to gain a better view. We say if memory serves us right, but how do we serve our memories?
Beautiful. You've been thinking about that for a while.
Well, these things come at 2:35 in the morning.
Exactly. No, I get you. And there you go. All right. Outstanding. So what I thought we would do is kind of bank up against those thoughts and that sort of poetry that you just shared with us. And I thought we would bounce back to like 1700 something. And the way we do that is historically we find people who also like to write about things such. And Anita Firebaugh is a farming member of our community with her husband James, and they do cattle and they do other things. And she has a long history of writing in different formats. And we asked her if she might just sort of set the stage and take us back to the beginning of Botetourt County.
Botetourt County was first formed in 1770 from Augusta County via the House of Burgesses after citizens petitioned for a division. They wanted to create another county due to the remoteness of the courthouse in Augusta. The new county was named after Norman Berkeley, Lord Botetourt, who in 1768 was appointed by King George III as the Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of the colony. The first records that describe the valley encompass an area from the Shenandoah to the New River. John Lederer, a German explorer, made these records in 1669 and 1670. At this time, the area was not settled or farmed. Native American tribes, chiefly the Catawba, Cherokee, Shawnee, and others, used the area mostly as a hunting ground. One Indian settlement called Toteras Town was in the area, presumably along the Roanoke River and in what is now the city of Roanoke, which was Botetourt County at one time. It is first mentioned in 1710 in correspondence of Virginia Governor Spotswood. In 1716, the area was explored by a cavalcade known as the Knights of the Golden Horseshoe and led by Spotswood himself. The land itself likely was not wooded, as we might think looking at it today. Some sections of it are thought to have been almost prairie-like. The area had buffalo, elk, panthers, and other such animals as one normally relates to the West, though at this time this area was the West.
So that's the first part of that story, and I'll bet we're going to hear more from Anita in podcasts to come. But now let's transition it to someone you spoke to who is really important to you, is really important to Botetourt County, and is a friend of just about everyone he ever crosses paths with. Who are we talking about?
We're talking about Mr. John Alderson, and he is a legend, especially if you're from Botetourt. His family has been here absolutely since the beginning. We're talking about that 1700s map. We should probably post it on the website. 1700s original map of Botetourt, and his family's still right there. And you can actually see Alderson right over there in that Amsterdam area. And they've been farming since the very beginning. And he now has an insurance agency, Alderson Insurance, right there in Daleville. We actually help him farm his property currently. He's very, very involved in the community, does great things for everyone, very well respected. So I got to sit down and chat with him for a while, and he's just so wise, so informative, and just an inspiration in so many ways.
Curtis Alderson moved on our current farm in 1772. That's when his dad, John, moved from Smith Linville Lake, which is north of Harrisonburg. Best we can tell, 1772. And the land that we're on was owned by Curtis. We're all descendants of Curtis Alderson. So we've been there since 1772. Curtis had a land grant of 5,000 acres. And over the years, with division of families, you get 50 acres and they get 100 acres. And then the kids come along, they're not going to farm, so they sell it. When I came along, we had 125 acres left out of 5,000 acres. And we're verifying all that. I'm having all that research now. And so later, we had to buy ours. I bought mine from two Alderson cousins. We got family cemetery there. And at the foot of the hill, I didn't see it, but my daughter has a picture of it in one of the books about Botetourt. There was a tomato canning factory because after the war, the northern people came in here and said, there's a way for you to make quick cash. And the South was devastated financially. And so it was tomatoes. And that practically ruined the farms in Botetourt County because they plowed with horses and the plowing was very, very shallow. And then when the storms came, guess where the topsoil went? Down to the creek. There was 1, 2, 3, 4 tomato canning factories on my road. When I got a little older, well, I never saw the tomato canning factories in operation. They all ceased before I got those operations. But then, when I was a kid, we were still raising tomatoes, and there was one large canning factory left, and it was out here at Daleville, and it was operated by the Eikenberries. And so Mr. Lawrence Garst would come by 1 or 2 times a week. We'd have the tomatoes all picked and shined and sitting on the side of the road and in baskets and load them on this flatbed truck, and he'd bring them to Daleville for processing. I guess that was the first cash. And then after World War II, Virginia Tech was very aggressive with this ag part. It was the ag school. and they had county agents. They sent it to the county with all of the new farming techniques and fertilizer and checking the lime. And they had this absolute ingenious new seed called fescue. And that fescue would grow on top of that table, for example. And all these old poor hills have been washed away. We planted that fescue on it, got a sod, and cut the erosion down. But there wasn't a week that the county agent wasn't on that farm. And he talked to us about soil fertilization and new crops, hybrid seed corn, all that stuff. And then he got into animal genetics and why the bull is so absolutely critical to high quality animals. And so Virginia Tech really did play a critical role after the war. For example, when I grew up, we had horsepower, and it was Bob and Bill. Bob and Bill were the two horses we had. And it was quite a while after that before I realized just how close the farmer was with his horse. And see, Granddaddy would get up in the morning and he'd go out and feed the horses and curry them. And while they were eating, he went back and had his breakfast. Then they spent the day together. Well, the mare that gave birth to Bob and Bill was Nell. And when Nell was 32 or 33, we had a black gentleman that worked on a farm. Everybody loved him dearly. His name was Charles Thompson. And Charles Thompson lived in the woods over where the Botetourt Country Club is now. And so my granddaddy, had Charles take the old mare with him, and he gave him money to buy feed for her. He said, I don't want you to tell me when she died, but when you quit asking for money, I'll know she died.
Well, those are some pretty poignant points, some fantastic history. I had no idea about how involved Virginia Tech was with their extension agents. I knew that tomatoes were a prominent part of our history, but not that prominent. We weren't taught that in school at all, about the Reconstruction with that and the fescue. But I think it's also really important that we go back to the question we kind of encourage constantly on this show and to ourselves with the title of it is, have we forgotten?
Right. And let me just say this. This is our second version of Old as Dirt. We said part 2. Mm-hmm. I think we've uncovered in the dirt some stuff that we need to continue to visit down the line in this podcast. As we learn more, we have more questions.
Yeah.
And maybe the questions will get better with time, but we've got such a rich resource of people around here. So how about if we invite them back for more conversation down the road? You think that would work?
Absolutely. I think this needs to be a continuing series.
I agree entirely. Well, our time has gone flying by today. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but we wanted to thank you for joining us for episode 7 of the Forgotten Fields Project. Our thanks again to John Alderson and Anita Firebaugh for taking the time out of their busy schedules to chat with us. The executive producer of Forgotten Fields is Teresa Reed. Interview segments are conducted by Tara Williamson. Our resident mythbuster is Tom Williamson. And I'm Robin Reed. I'm here as a meteorologist part-time and a broadcast engineer sort of, and we hope you will come back and join us next time.